everybody, and welcome back to Typical City. After yesterday's announcement that a £30 million bid for Riyad Mahrez is on the way to the City doorstep, I thought that it would be nice to look at the possible starting 11 to put a dampener on the fears and apprehension that a lot of City fans are showcasing from the numerous rumours that outgoings are the only news right now, and there is no news of incoming players for City, and panic stations and hit that panic button, time to worry, City fans apparently. But fear not, I've got 5 possible starting 11 formations for you, and on paper, can't forget how good this team is. This squad oozes quality. You can't forget that. So let's get started with the first possible starting 11. And it's similar to the Champions League and the way Pep ended last season, the final half of the season really, with the WM formation, the 3-2-2-3 formation, which I think is what he's probably going to roll with, but he's got options and plenty of them. So let's get started. I've also started with Gvardiol. I do want to be clear about that I'm including Gvardiol in the starting 11 with the assumption that City are going to sign him, and I've given him number 22 as well. For those who are wondering, I'm just guessing that Mendy's gone now, isn't he? So 22's up for grabs. Richard Dunn, former number for Richard Dunn. He's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Gvardiol, Gvardiol. Hopefully that'll be the song we can sing about him. But number 22 I've given him. Who's to know if he's going to be given that number? But let's start with the formation. Ederson in goal, 3 at the back with Gvardiol and Diaz and Akanji. Now, that is just solidified defending. That is, how solid does that look? Nothing's getting past them as far as I'm concerned. It looks like a really solid back line. In front of them, I've continued with Stones, who needs to believe in himself. He continuously entered into interviews and conversations and doubted himself. He sprinkled a little bit of doubt on his own ability. And whenever he was questioned, like, how do you feel playing in this position? Well, it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm not really feeling that comfortable, but I do what the manager asks. And as good as that is, of course you do. You do what the manager asks. You played a Champions League final in that position and you won the game and you looked absolutely assured. So believe in yourself, Mr. John Stones. You've got to believe in yourself, because I think he can. He proved it time and time again. He looked right at home in that position. So for me, this is what I would probably start with. This would be my favourite formation. Alongside Stones is Rodri. Now, up ahead of him, we've got Kovacic, the new signing Kovacic, alongside De Bruyne. This is excluding the idea that I know De Bruyne is injured for the start of the season, but let's say everyone's fit. Kovacic and De Bruyne are alongside him. Up top, the big man, Erling Haaland. Left, we've got Foden, and on the right, we've got Bernardo Silva. So I haven't gone with Grealish there. I do think Grealish is probably going to start with Pep Guardiola. Does seem to have a soft spot for Grealish. I'm just a little bit concerned about that partying that he's doing. Is he going to walk straight back into this starting 11 and be fit enough and raring to go? Because that guy's going at it on holiday right now. And I haven't seen too much. I'm sure Foden's having a few drinks and stuff like that. But, I'm just a bit concerned about how much Grealish is going for it. Personally, I think Foden sort of fizzled out at the end of last season with numerous substitute appearances. He came on for De Bruyne in the Champions League final, and he nearly scored. What a goal that would have been, and through on goal as well, weaving as he likes to do. On the left instead of on the right, I do like to see Foden cutting in, but that's what I've gone for. And then the next formation that I've gone for is a possible starting 11, which this is just an indication. Look at it on paper, guys. No need to panic. Except for Gvardiol, obviously we'd put Ake there if Gvardiol wasn't there. Look at that on paper. No reason to panic. Nothing to worry about. I think Bernardo's staying as well. This is another point that I need to make, is the fact that I've put Bernardo out there. I have a funny feeling that he will be staying with City, and hopefully so. Hopefully he doesn't go. Then formation number 2, same formation, Gvardiol, Diaz and Stones, though, I've gone for instead of Akanji in the back line, and I think Kovacic can drop into that defensive midfield role and play more in the defensive side of the game and collecting the ball from the back 3 alongside Rodri. Still, you need that Rodri, you need that rock in the middle there, and I think Kovacic could play nicely in there because he is a ball player as much as he is a tackling player as well. He's got both ends of the game, he can do both parts of the midfield role. And then ahead of them, pull in Bernardo from out wide, I think tucking him into the midfield alongside Kevin De Bruyne. And then outside of Haaland up top, you've got your Grealish and Foden, right footer on the left footer on the right, and that's going to cut in nicely, and you're going to be able to naturally cut in and feed Haaland, potentially laying it off for De Bruyne and laying it off for Bernardo Silva. I prefer to see Foden on the right. I remember the goal against Newcastle last season at the Etihad where he weaved in and cut inside 3 or 4 players and then bobbled it in past Pope in the far corner. And I mean, can Foden play in as many roles as we're asking him to? I think he can. That's the downside to Grealish for me, as I haven't seen him play in a central role, and Pep doesn't ever seem to want to play him in a more central role. And that's where Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden are key components going into next season, because you're already seeing their versatility in the fact that I think Foden can also drop into midfield, and Bernardo Silva can do the same, as well as going out wide. Bernardo Silva can even play left back, can't he? But that's another formation that I think we could easily go with and comfortably win as many games as you want, really. I mean, what team's beating that in the Premier League? That is a solid team right there. Now we're going for something a bit different. Shout out to Douglas in the comments the other day. He did something, he mentioned something and he inspired me, and I think he's right. I think that we could play with the little and large up top and play a 3-2-3-2 formation. Now, you're going to get a bit narrow with that, and if you do try and go wide, you're going to open up the channels. That's the problem with that in terms of the counter-attack. But look at that front five. That's frightening, with Foden, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, propping up the idea of Alvarez and Erling Haaland up top together. I've dropped Alvarez a little bit because I do think he needs to occupy the pocket a little bit more in the 10 role, and in those spaces, in the pockets, I think he can fill that role nicely, and keeping Erling Haaland up top. And that formation there is going to pose question marks to the centre-backs. Are you going to drop and man-mark Haaland and look after him and leave that pocket of space for Alvarez to drift into? We saw him do it away at Fulham last season, dropping into that space. He had all the space in the world, and then he whips one into the top corner from outside the box. So he's got that in his locker. I think he's growing into that role of playing in a midfield position, as well as supplying Haaland and playing alongside him. And I love that old school little and large. It does get me excited. And then, are you going to stick with Haaland? But if you go and drop to or push to advance onto Alvarez and mark Alvarez, then you're leaving all the space in the world behind you for Erling Haaland, who will kill you. So pick your poison, defenders. Who are you going for in that formation? Are you going to mark Alvarez? Are you going to mark Haaland? Because you've got 2 major problems and goal-scoring threats. And there's Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden. If you want even more goals, there's 3 more players that will bag you 10-plus goals per season, potentially. I've stuck with Kovacic behind them alongside Rodri in the same back 3 from before. Then the next formation I've gone for is reverting to a little bit more of the old school. I say old school, but it's the familiar formation that we saw Pep's sides do 2 or 3 seasons ago. The Centurions were similar to that, with a 4 at the back instead and only the 1 in front of the defence. I've gone with Gvardiol at left back, and I think that's what we're going to see. Gvardiol could even play in Rodri's position, and even in the 2 as well in the previous formations. I think Gvardiol could push up higher into defensive midfield, but for now I think he can definitely play left back. Out of the 2 of Ake or Gvardiol, I think Ake's more suited to a centre-back role. He can definitely play left-back and out left-back. We saw that last season, and he pocketed Saka the whole game. And I remember that at the Etihad in the League Cup. But Gvardiol, for me, is more of a ball player, and he's the complete package, and I think he could play left-back with Ake, Stones in the middle, and Walker on the right. Walker coming into the team as well, because, I mean, he can play in a 3, Walker, and I think we saw him in England playing in 3 of a centre-back under Gareth Southgate. I do think he needs to be more on the right, to be honest. Now, he's naturally a fullback. That is his bread and butter, fullback. So ahead of him is Rodri, and then in the middle you've got that flat 4. It's not so flat. You're going to have some versatility in dropping and pushing between the 2, with Alvarez and Kevin De Bruyne collecting the ball and pushing on. And out wide, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden, which excites me again. Erling Haaland seems to just be the pinnacle of the team at the top. Who else? Erling Haaland. And then I've gone for a cup team. The final formation that I wanted to show you guys today is the cup team that I think we could play. And that's just an indication of, again, do not panic, because look at that team. albeit they're nowhere near the level of the previous formations. The quality of the individuals that are in that team right now are not up to the standard of the previous formation, but the previous formations and team and quality of individual were treble winning quality. So, you know, I still think that Premier League, that team there can beat Premier League teams. Bottom half probably, but they can definitely win Premier League teams. I don't think they're going to be played in the Premier League. It's certainly not in that formation with those individuals, but they can definitely play in the lower cup games. If we draw a team that's from the lower leagues, you could comfortably play that team and win. You know, obviously if you're going into championship teams, the championship's just getting better and better and better, and the drop in quality between Premier League and Championship is getting smaller. So when you draw a Championship team, you do need to play almost a full strength team to make sure you get through the draw and into the next round. So maybe not Championship teams. It's a bit risky going into Championship. I prefer Pep to go all out first half, win the game in the first half, get 2-3 goals, and then bring on the substitutes and play these types of players. But Ake, Akanji and Walker, like I was saying, part of the three at the centre-back. Rico Lewis and Calvin Phillips as the two in the middle. Phil Foden and Kovacic alongside each other, and that's Phil Foden's versatility right there, dropping into midfield. That's exciting to me as well, because I think he can do it. We saw glimpses of him doing it last season, and Pep's always suggested that he would see Phil Foden dropping in to that advanced midfield role rather than being out wide. He's got that 360 vision, Phil Foden. He can receive the ball half turn, quarter turn. He can receive the ball in any angle and comfortable at receiving it. Kovacic as well. Those two in particular excite me in that particular formation, because those two can just 360 spin, and the way they receive the ball in such tight spaces surrounded by markers, they don't care. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. I can take it. No problem. No fear. Fearless two midfields. And I'm excited to see those two playing alongside each other. Now, the interesting one for me is Gomez. That's where I see him playing for City. Is he good enough to consistently play there in that position ahead of, you know, your Foden, your Grealish, Bernardo Silva? No, he's not. He's not. And he's too attacking minded, and he's poor at defending. He's not got the nous to look after that back post. If you're going to ask him to play left back, nah, it's not for me. And if you are going to see Gomez playing more consistently in a City shirt, that's his position. We saw him play really well in the League Cup against Chelsea. We saw him play well in the small amount of time he had against United. He came on against United, was advanced quite a bit, got an assist for Erling Haaland, firing it across. I think it was for Haaland's hat-trick before he did the old meditation celebration. Palmer, is he going to be at Brighton? I've assumed not here, that's why I've thrown him in there, but I've tried to rotate as many players as possible with that. I've not put Ortega in. I probably should have done that. Ortega would have gone in there, of course. But Alvarez up top for me, that's where he wants to play. Haaland's obviously not going to play every single game this season, but it is, again, it's just an indication of the squad depth and quality that we've got. And fear not, Blues. Do not panic, because look at that team. It's good. It's a good team. It will beat a lot of teams. I really believe that this squad has nothing to worry about. Now, obviously, Mahrez goes. I haven't included Mahrez in any of them with the assumption that he is going. So Mahrez isn't even in there. And Perone as well. He's another one. We've not even seen Maximo Perone yet. He could be playing alongside Phillips ahead of Lewis. Lewis could maybe drop into the Walker position. Probably not, but he's more of a fullback / defensive midfielder, inverted. So there is so many options, and that's why it's a case of do not panic, Blues. But I would love to hear your possible formations. What do you think Pep Guardiola is going to go with for the start of the season? The pre-season's rapidly approaching, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the younger players coming in. I think Maximo Perone and Rico Lewis and the young lads. I want to see what Pep goes with, because that might give you a little snippet, a little clue as to what Pep is going to go with for the start of the season, in particular the formation. Trial and error, a lot of the pre-season games will be for Pep Guardiola, so I wouldn't read too much into the results. You never should. It's pre-season at the end of the day, but the formations, the tactics, the ideas, and that's what I'm excited for pre-season about, and seeing what Pep Guardiola goes with. But get in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas, Blues. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up Silva.